I've got a bunch of found footage movie recommendations for you. Dark bleatings, everyone. Got something a little movie-ish for you today. Now, for months, I have not had time to watch a lot of films. I've got a growing list of films I want to watch. A lot of them suggestions from you guys that you give me in the comments. Some of them going back quite some time. I'm so sorry. I don't just ask for your suggestions and then ignore them. I always honestly write them down, literally in a notebook I have. But I'm just so busy, I never have time. However, I quite often have YouTube videos on in the background that I listen to when I'm working and it's a task that I haven't got to, 100% focus on or something, or when I'm cleaning, cooking, things like that. And I was listening to a Possessed by Horror video the other day, and she was talking about found footage, and it just reminded me about how much I love found footage films. I know that people are a bit chalk and cheese with these. There's some people that just don't like them at all. There are some that are better than others, obviously. So I thought that I would give you a list of 10 of my favourites, and hopefully there'll be something that you haven't seen on here, because some of these are like the heavy hitting ones that everyone's heard of, but I would like to tell you my choices and then in some cases justify them. Okay, so this isn't really in any particular order. The order changes all of the time, but the first film I'm going to talk to you about is Grave Encounters. This is about a documentary team that they go around kind of debunking hauntings and stuff, but they really want to find a genuine haunting, and that's like their main aim. So they book to stay overnight shut into what was an asylum or a mental health facility, and it's obviously closed down and everything now. It's been empty for a while, so the groundskeeper lets them in, locks them in, and says he'll come back for them in the morning. And then they're just sort of walking around documenting the place as you do, and they start to see and hear scary things. The reason that I like this one so much is I'm not a huge fan of jump scares, which found footage films a lot of the time I think they do use, because when you use found footage you have less at your disposal. In terms of like obviously the filmmaking style, you can't just go CGIing a whole bunch of stuff in, because it looks particularly unnatural when you're going for a found footage style, things like that. I don't really like jump scares that much, and there are a few in this, and they're especially, like that it's a stereotype at this point, but like the lady goes screaming and her mouth goes too long, like there's that as well. However, some of the scares that really got me, that freaked me out, were just good ideas. There is a point in the film where they just decide, oh screw this, we're getting out of here, because they realise that there really might be something in this place, and they all regret wanting to see an actual haunting, and they burst out of a particular door that should lead them outside, and it just leads them into another corridor. I thought that like that kind of thinking, that is such a good idea for a horror film, because it really elevated that trapped in one place kind of feeling. So I really enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the concept. The reason they had cameras was well executed. That's another thing about found footage. They have to cover certain bases that regular filmmaking doesn't, such as justifying why this film was being made in the first place, how people came to find the footage, yada yada yada. But yeah, ticked all those boxes for me, and I thought it was a really fun time. Next, this one is one I hadn't heard of as much, but this is As Above, So Below, and it's about some people that go into the catacombs in Paris, I think, in the big underground crypty place. I've never been, I've always wanted to go, because I am a morbid person that want to see skulls, I guess. But there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on down there, and I just remember being like a bit anxious, like dry mouth, kind of stressed, watching the whole thing, just wanting them to get out into daylight or just above ground at the very least. There's a similar sort of feeling, like they've got lost in this place. Again, I don't think that people realise that something I do know about the catacombs. Oh, if you've been there, by the way, can you please let me know in the comments and let me know about your experience and what it was like, because I've never talked to anyone that's actually been there, and again, I haven't been. But anyway, I do know that people have this idea that the catacombs is like one little area that you walk into, but actually it's very big and maze-like, and people can get lost there, and they have before. So I do think that if you go to visit them as a tourist, I think it's quite strict about where you can go or whatever. But yeah, anyway, these people are lost in the catacombs, and maybe there's scary stuff down there. But yeah, that's the gist of it, without giving you any spoilers about anything anyone encounters. But yeah, very disorientating, because you're sort of like underground, so no idea about what time of day it is, and that kind of stuff like does start to get to you in these kinds of scenarios. So yeah, I really recommend that one. It was really, really fun. Now, I think that I'm going to get dragged a little bit for this one, because I've heard so many people make fun of it, and I do see why. But I'm gonna have to say, The Visit. It's the M. Night Shyamalan film. I've come across one or two people that like this, but generally people react with shock when I say I like it. And in general, I am not a Shyamalan. I don't know how you say it, Shyamalan. I'm not a huge fan, to be honest. I think that when he hits it out of the park, you like the ball, it becomes a dot in the distance. But generally he doesn't. There's a like, you know, if you take The Happening, although I mean that was kind of a smash for me because it was so amusing for all the wrong reasons. But anyway, so The Visit is about, there's a woman who's kind of estranged from her parents. There's something has happened, very difficult upbringing, stuff like that. That's what we get sense of. But they've reached out because they really want to get to know their grandchildren, who they haven't seen since they were babies. And the grandchildren want to go, so the mum puts them on a train and lets them go see her parents. And when the kids get there, everything feels like normal. Initially, they seem like a nice old couple, and the reason it's being filmed is because the girl fancies herself a bit of a documentarian, and she wants to make a film about her mum and her mum's relationship with the grandparents. So that's kind of why we've got the filming angle going on. And they are very typical kids, like teenagers and preteen they are, and people found them annoying, but I found them quite realistic. But yeah, the grandparents start to act weird, very weird, and it was really unsettling to me. And I think this tapped into some childhood fear about, like, I started to worry about what the grandparents were, like if they were even people, because it's not that there's any crazy CGI that like alludes to them being creatures, although I'm not going to say if they are or aren't, but their behavior is just so off, like just so like a person, like something that's pretending to be a person kind of off. And yeah, it just got really scary. And then, you know, there's other revelations. I will say this, it wouldn't be like at the top of my list because there's an element of this, but I can't tell you what it is because it's a major spoiler for the end of the film. There's an element that I do not think was handled well, and I think it was used as cheap horror fodder. But everything up until that I found very engaging and scary. Okay, next up we have Host, and I might get dragged a bit for this as well. I saw people making fun of this, but I actually thought this was really, really creative. It's 50 minutes long, I think 40 or 50 minutes long, because that was the cutoff for a free Zoom call. I think that still is the cutoff for a free Zoom call, but it's set during the pandemic, so when people were using Zoom and Skype and everything, and it's just filmed through the Zoom camera. And yes, a bunch of people getting together for an activity, and the activity is a seance, like an online seance, and they've like hired a host and stuff to do it. And I just thought this was so relatable because during the pandemic I was joining in for like a weekly quiz with a group of my friends, and we just alternated hosting the quiz, and it was just really fun. Like we'd be on the call for a couple of hours with each other, and it was you know, we spent more time with each other ironically during that time than we had in years, like all of us together, so it was really nice. So I thought it was really believable. The reason it's being filmed is obviously it's a recordable Zoom call, and I enjoyed that they stuck so rigidly with the conventions of what could be done. I thought it was really, really, really creative, and you know, it's got some flaws and stuff, but considering how it was made, I really thought that that was a win for like the found footage genre. It just brought a new type of technology and a new lens to the entire thing. Next up, there are people that will argue with me that this isn't horror, but I disagree. I disagree, and even if I can't disagree that strongly, I'm still putting it on this list. It's Chronicle. This is a bit different to the others. This is about, I think it's 3 friends, like teenage boys, and one of them discovers that he has superpowers for some reason, and so they're all like, you know, that's what the film is about, and capturing it. It was really, really good. I want to describe this as a bit better than going with film good, but it was just a really creative concept for the filming style, and I thought that the boys were quite believable. It's not, you know, it doesn't look like it's been filmed by professionals, obviously, because it's supposed to be filmed by teenage boys. And this is kind of like, imagine if Brightburn was found footage. They, in fact, they actually used a little bit of that in Brightburn with like security cameras and things like that. It's scary. It's scary because you can imagine, you know, teenage boys and the hormones rushing around all over the place, the tempers flaring because of all the tests. I don't know exactly know the biology of what happens when people are teenagers, boys are teenagers, but like I could just imagine throwing like a superpower on top of that, and then depending of the temperament of the person that possesses the power, it could go quite badly. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It was like a cool, neat little film. Ooh, the next one is Afflicted, and I think, yes, this is the only vampire film that's a found footage on this list, and I'm trying to think of other footage vampire films, and the only thing I can think of, there was like a really great segment in one of the VHS movies, but this is pretty unique just because of the vampire element to me, and it's about a guy who, you know, is turning into a vampire, and there isn't much more to say about it than that that's what the concept is. But like, yeah, documenting the journey from regular human to vampire, it's horrible. It's really horrible. And because we're in the found footage style here, it keys us into the viewpoint and sort of like the internal struggle of the character even more. I think it feels more personal because it's found footage rather than being filmed a different way. So I think that that's why it works so much, because we've seen like a million vampire movies at this point where somebody realizes they're turning into a vampire and they're really struggling against it and trying to hold on to the humanity. But there's something about it in this particular format that really elevated my empathy for the character, because a lot of the time when I watch these films I just think, oh come on, just enjoy your vampire powers. But this, I was like, oh god, oh no. And we're seeing what feels and looks like a physical painful transformation as well. So it's a really great film. This one is one of the more unique stories on this list. It's called Cam, and I just found this by chance. I was just looking for anything to watch one night when I couldn't sleep, and then I ended up staying up and watching the whole thing. This is about a cam girl, and she makes her money online. It's like kind of like an OnlyFans kind of thing, like web girl or whatever's called in this film. But she's a cam girl anyway, so she's doing her saucy little minx things for her subscribers and her paying customers and wherever it is. And she isn't working one day, and then realizes she's getting notifications about her live stream, and she's like, what, like why am I getting donations or whatever for my live stream? And she logs in to see herself doing a live stream, only she isn't, because she's there watching in horror as whoever the hell this is that looks exactly like her doing a live stream. And yeah, again, I can't go much more into that because there's a lot more to it that's like for what's going on. But I loved it because it's a different kind of story for this kind of format, and in general I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. I think that people who work in the sex industry are woefully underrepresented as characters in films in general, and when they are represented, they tend to either be like whorish stereotypes that are just all about I don't know. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Oh, but you know what I mean, like they're depicted like that. Or, and I say whorish, I'm not like slut shaming, I'm just saying there's like a caricature that people imagine of people who do sex work, and it's like they just absolutely love the peen and they just can't get enough of butt plugs or wherever it is, and that's their entire personality. And they don't have any feelings or emotions, and they're just a pair of boobs. And I just, everything I want to say is too graphic even for my own mind. Or they're depicted as strung out drug addicts that have no choice, no free will, like maybe they're being pimped out, or you know, daddy issues. Oh my god, don't even start me on that, I hate that so much. You know, women with absolutely zero self-esteem, and they're just like, you know, just addled with addictions and you know, mental health issues and things like that. And I very rarely see just like a regular woman that just happens to be a sex worker in films. And I know, I mean, I can't say that I know a lot of escorts, but I do know people who have done cam work. I know people who have OnlyFans accounts, who run OnlyFans accounts, and I know a lot of exotic dancers, and I can tell you that for the most part, they are all just completely normal people that have gone into this line of work, free choice and everything, and there's no dark underbelly to them. There's just like, oh, I can make money doing that. So this felt like refreshing, because the character does have issues, but she is also a very much fleshed out character, like an actual person, can you believe? And then it's so easy to empathize with her panic over she gets locked out of her own account, but she's apparently still doing lives and stuff. And it was just, yeah, it was so good. Okay, this is a classic. It's not the first ever found footage, obviously. I believe that was Peeping Tom, if we want to be really technical about it. Came out the same year as Psycho, I think. But it's the Blair Witch Project. This is not the first found footage film, but it is the one that put found footage on the map for what we see it today. This is the one that inspired the boom of found footage movies. I think that a lot of the films that came after this would never have been made if it wasn't for the success of the Blair Witch Project. Now, I know if you watch it for the first time in this day and age, I don't know how scary you will find it. I think that it holds up as a film and everything now, but I think that the magic and the horror of this really came out of when it was made. It was like, this is one of those sort of like lightning in a jar kind of films where like the circumstances for the release were perfect as well. So the Blair Witch Project is about, as I'm sure you already know, 3 film students who go to investigate the legend of the Blair Witch for a project for university. They go into the woods that the Blair Witch is meant to live in or lurk in or whatever, and you know, they're just like documenting the history and wherever, but pretty soon they start to find some pretty scary crap. Now, the reason that I think that this film is so special, and I will die on that hill, I do think that this like revolutionized horror in some ways, and definitely like the found footage genre, is the actors were given a loose idea of what they were going to be filming each day, but they were constantly being surprised by the crew setting up scary things for them to find. And they each had well, 2 of them had cameras and one of them was like a sound guy or whatever, but we were capturing like the actual reactions to these things. And I know what you might be thinking, well, they're actors and they were making a film, but these were actors that were like pretty new, like no or very few credits to their names, so like they were inexperienced actors, and they were actually camped, living in the woods, surviving on rations and things, and you know, getting very little sleep, because you know, they're camping, you're not going to get a great night's sleep anyway, but also the crew were like running around in the middle of the night, waking them up, scaring them, so they were exhausted, they were hungry, and all of this plays into, you know, your mind. Obviously you might know you're making a film, but things are still going to start freaking you out after a while. And the other thing that people don't understand about this now. And because I was lucky enough to be 14 when this was 13 or 14 when this was released, so again, I'm old. But just like mobile phones, we barely had internet when this came out. It was like the 90s, and the internet was something that not everyone even had in their homes yet. And the internet was like dial-up, like it uses the phone line, so you could either be on the house phone or you could be using the internet, but never both at the same time. And most people had like pay per minute internet. There was no such thing as broadband, there was no such thing as wireless. And for that reason, there was not much opportunity to look up things online. We didn't have real social media, wasn't really a thing yet or anything, but they were websites. And so what the team did was the first ever, I think, successful viral marketing campaign online, where they made a Blair Witch website months prior to the film's release, so that like the legend of the Blair Witch was coming into the cultural zeitgeist before the film came out, but not like, only a little bit for some people in some parts of the world, things like that. And then when it was released, there's like that little bit at the beginning that says, you know, this footage was recovered from the woods and the team have put it together, and people really thought it was real. So I remember my mum went to see this and she thought it was real, and she came home and she was just disturbed about it for days. But yeah, it was a real standout cultural moment for me as a horror fan especially. Okay, 2 left. We're gonna go with Wreck and Wreck 2 actually, but they're very different. So, well, it's the same and different. So Wreck is, I never remember if it's French or Spanish. But anyway, it's about a late night film crew that like they go around making these films about like jobs that people don't think about, and like jobs that people have through the middle of the night. And it's only a 2-person crew. It's like your host, this lady, and then the cameraman. You'll notice I haven't remembered anyone's names at all for this whole video. And they go out with some firefighters, and they're just like waiting for the firefighters to get a call so they can, it's like a night in the life of kind of thing. And the firefighters are called to this apartment building, and then when they get there, the residents are saying some like weird stuff, and then before they know it, they are sealed into the building by the government because there is something in the building that they don't want to get out. And this, I mean, I may as well just tell you, it's zombies, you guys, and they're really scary and they're fast, and you know, everyone is trapped in a building. They can't go out the window, there's no stairs, there's no doors, like they cannot leave. And no one knows what's going on. Everyone's really disconnected. Again, this is happening in the evening, so there are people shut in their apartments that don't even know there's anything going on. So obviously when they come out, they are suddenly very at risk. And this is not a world in which zombies are normal, so everyone is really surprised by anything and everything that seems crazy. It's just, yeah, if you like zombie films, this is hands down such a great one. Such a great film. And then I can't talk too much about Wreck 2 because I don't want to spoil it, but Wreck 2 picks up right where Wreck leaves off with different characters, and it elaborates on the story of Wreck 1, and I think that what they did was absolute genius. I don't want to spoil it for you though, because it was so delightful to discover as I watched it. But if you can watch them just back to back, one after the other, if you can carve out like, you know, 4 hours or 3 hours or 3 to 4 hours, wherever you need to watch both of these films, I think that you'll have a really good time, especially if you're already a found footage fan. And the last one, this might be my favourite because of the subject. This is The Last Exorcism. I love this film so much. It is about a former preacher or pastor, or I don't know the right term, but he was like one of those ones that did like faith healings and a lot of exorcisms and things like that. And something happens and he has a change of heart about his profession, because he was scamming people. Whenever he was paid lots of money to conduct an exorcism, he would go in and make sure that the person who thought they were possessed, like, he'd give everyone in the house good reason to actually believe the person was possessed, and he'd set things up and rig things to convince everybody that the exorcism was needed, when actually, like, it never was. He never actually saw a genuine case of possession. And you know, he realizes that he's caused harm and that this whole industry causes harm, and so now he's made it his mission to debunk these kinds of things. And he takes an exorcism case where his intention, and he's making a film about this, which is why there are cameras, his intention is to show that there is not a possession going on in this house, and it's a teenage girl, and he wants to show the family, like, do not worry, this isn't the devil, this is mental health, or this is a delusion of some sort, or whatever it is, right? But then he gets there, and it seems like maybe there is something going on. And I just thought that this type of horror really lent itself extremely well to this filmmaking style, because there's something very raw about found footage that makes you feel less safe as you're watching it. Like, it feels like there's less of a barrier between you and the story when you're watching found footage, because you're seeing it as if you're filming it. And so it just really made me very scared. And this is one of the films on the list that had moments that genuinely frightened me, and I just thought it was such a good time. Okay, that's my list. Let me know if you think, I guess I would say this is my top 10. I don't think I've forgotten any favourites that didn't make it onto the list, but if you have some, please let me know, because when I finally have a little time, I think I would like to watch some found footage. It's been a very long time since I watched any, and I do love it as a genre of films. Horror, please, though. I'm not really interested in other, although I think it is mostly used for horror, isn't it, found footage? Is there found footage of any other genre? I've never heard of a found footage romance. But if you have, let me know in the comments. I would be interested to know. What are your favourites? Recommend some found footage horror to me. I would love your recommendations. I will see you in the next video. Bleed!